Well, hello a chroeso I Poetry is Alive and Well. Hello and welcome to Poetry is Alive and Well with me, Chris Davies, and Annie Pelleschi.
Hello.
Now, hello. Now, today we've got Gwion Iqbal Malik. Welcome.
Thank you.
Iqbal is what people call you, isn't it?
Yes, they
Not
use my middle
Gwion.
name, yeah.
Where did
yeah.
Gwion come from then?
Gwion is a Welsh name, obviously.
Yeah.
My mother is from Seven Sisters, so I've got a bit of a sort of mix going on. My dad was born in East Africa, in Kenya. I was born in London, so yeah, a bit of a mix.
What part of London?
Lambeth sort of area.
Cool.
Yeah,
And then you moved to Swansea when you were 3, is that right?
Actually moved to Port Talbot.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I spent a couple of years down there. And then I think I went to Gross Primary School and then ended up in Wenarloedd. And then where I am now, which is in Brynmill.
Brilliant. And you went away to uni in
Exeter.
Exeter.
Yeah.
Brill. And what did you study when you were in uni?
For my sins, I did a politics degree.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Right. That makes sense because I've read some of your work and it's quite political, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's a bit of a political theme going on, yeah.
Yeah. So what is the inspiration to your work then?
Inspiration is a lot of things, really. Spirituality is probably my biggest inspiration at the moment, but it draws on childhood memories, it draws on political sort of thinking and being engaged in the world, sort of generally. So politics and spirituality, I think, really.
Is that from a humanist perspective or a religious perspective? What kind of spirituality is it?
Not a sort of mainstream religious point of view, I guess. Just humanist, as you say, and being caring and looking to, look after your neighbour, as well. So
Lovely.
It's not anything, kind of particular, really.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
How do you think your working life colours your poetic life?
My working life, I'm a probation officer, so I've been doing that for about 12 years. It underpins probably a substantial amount of what I write about, looking at things from the point of view of people who are disenfranchised, who don't have much, or, a lot of the time broken, or, tend to resort to drug use or that kind of thing. So I try to give that a voice and bring that to life, as well as wanting to express something about my own personal experiences as well.
Brilliant. And,
sorry.
So no, you go ahead.
There are poems in your section of 10 Swansea writers that really are talking from a drug user's perspective. That's what I get from it.
I mean, there was one poem called Junkies. It's quite a sort of loaded word, really, but it's meant to be challenging. It's meant to kind of get the reader or the listener to, sort of feel what is happening in the real world as well. It's not all, kind of roses and everything's bright and brilliant for everybody. There's a real kind of undercurrent of stuff that needs to be expressed. So Junkies was trying to give voice to that.
Did you draw from a personal experience or was it an observation of... But what was the inspiration for that one?
Well, I suppose I write from an emotional point of view. So I try to connect with people and feel what they're going through. Obviously, from the job I do, I work with people who are actually going through a lot of those kind of problems, whether they're in prison or in the community. And you try to help them and assist them in as many ways as you can. But equally, it's about taking responsibility, for that. But it's a big thing to get out of. The sort of drug world, that kind of community and the peer groups that they're in.
Yeah, seems to be like a vicious circle, doesn't it? And
it's definitely a circle,
But does it help you cope with the angst or trials of your job?
I guess everything I do in terms of writing poetry, it's to process, it's kind of to work through some of the thoughts or feelings or the frustrations that you sort of think about or feel. And that, again, is one of those poems, but it's trying to be hard-hitting. It's trying to get across the point that there's an ugliness to societies as well. It's not all about sitting on a sofa talking about poetry. It's about actually understanding that there's real people who are going through very difficult problems as well.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what you've said before, isn't it, Annie? I mean, it's just been relevant. I mean, poetry, so many people are maybe put off by the term poetry, but they are just words, like you've said before so many times. And it's just making it relevant, I guess, to the real world, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I suppose poetry for me is about bringing stuff to life, you know, bringing personal experiences to life. So, you know, I try to go to different poetry groups and readings, including Talisman. There's lots going on in Swansea. There's Swansea Poetry Slam that I'm running in June, on the 9th of June. So it's given other people opportunities to sort of come forward and express it in their own particular ways.
Brill. Now, speaking of that self-expression, you're quite authentic as a writer, as many poets are. And sometimes, you know, a swear word may just go hand in hand with that kind of, you know, a realism for the background or for the type of poem that it is. Do you find that the audiences are put off by that sometimes, maybe the not so liberal audience?
I'm smiling because it's one of the problems that I suppose my poetry suffers from, perhaps, is that I do stray into some swear words. I don't want to be gratuitous about it. It's really about being honest about the feelings and that moment that you're trying to describe. So if it's important, if it's relevant for the poem, I think it's important to put it in. I have on occasions perhaps been guilty of overindulging that, and sometimes people will say it, you know. So you've got to take that on the chin. But
I think what's important about the swear word, really, from my point of view, is that sometimes the F word, when it's used, if it's used appropriately as a scream of anger or fear or whatever, then it actually adds to the whole feeling of the poem.
Yeah.
You know, you can scream that word, that F word out, and pull people in to it.
Almost like a shock tactic, I
Yes,
suppose.
yes.
I think swearing is part of life, you know.
It is.
You know, sometimes you say things out of frustration, and that's partly why you write. You know, and I write the way I do, is that you're basically trying to say it as it is. And if you're pulling your punches, then you may as well not be writing.
I suppose, well, my personal opinion is if there's no malice attached to it as such, and you're not being aggressive or confrontational with it, they're just a series of letters to make up sounds as a word. I mean, it's like you said, it's attached to real life. It goes on. When you watch an episode of, for example, EastEnders, would some of the characters in there actually say fiddlesticks? They probably wouldn't, you know? But it's written into the script because of, you know, the time it's aired and things. So yes, it's quite an interesting one, that, isn't it?
I think the F word, more people use it, especially when Wales are playing England on the rugby pitch. That's the most time I ever hear it. You know?
Do you say hear it or use it?
Well, you've got to participate, haven't you? Good or bad.
Well,
you know?
indeed. So, I mean, we'll be looking into some of your poetry in the second half. We'll be actually looking at, well, you tell me, is there one that stands out to you?
Well, the first one in there,
We're looking obviously at just so the viewers can see, the 10 Swansea writers, which is the book we're referring to during this series. And yes, we've got Gwion Iqbal Malik in, if you're just tuning in now. So yeah, you were saying, which is the...
Well, the first one in my section of the book is called The Pugilist. You know, I did have a look at that before I came over. I mean, it's quite an important poem to me. It's probably not one that I sort of always pick out to read.
Right.
But it's quite layered in terms of what's happened in my life. You know, so I mean, I've gone through quite a difficult 3-year period where it sort of began with the divorce from my ex-wife, who was a Greek woman, and then ending up last year when I was diagnosed with cancer, my testicular cancer. So it has been a really rocky ride, and the point of that particular poem, The Pugilist, was about learning to fight, finding that inner strength, knowing that there are ups and downs in life, you know. So it's quite a personal expression of things that I've been through, really.
How are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm fine. I got the all clear with that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Congratulations, that's brilliant.
Thank you. But no, I had sort of last tests at Christmas, but with any sort of cancer treatment, you know, you're in the system for about 5 years. So it's quite heavy going. We get chemotherapy, radiotherapy, operations, kind of recuperation. But I think if I hadn't been through a lot of the other stuff I'd gone through in the preceding 2 years, I probably wouldn't have coped that well with it. But as it happens, like I think problems that turn up, they become a blessing. I think you've got to look at it like that.
Definitely. Well, I'm really glad about that. That's brilliant.
Isn't that great, turning a negative into a positive?
Well, that's right, and it must have had such an effect on your work as well. Which we're just going to go to a break now, but we'll discuss it in the second half. So stay with us, and we'll see you in about 3 minutes. Well, hello, a chroeso nôl I Poetry's Alive and Well. Welcome back to Poetry is Alive and Well. We're still here with Gwion Iqbal Malik. Now, before the break, we were going to look at The Pugilist, weren't we?
That's right, yeah.
Now, would you mind reading some of it, or all of it,
By
actually?
all means, yeah, I'll read that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, The Pugilist. The first word I learnt was pain. Marched up to me like a drunken bully. An old-school pugilist bobbing and weaving. And it caught me, more than once. Had me reeling, kissing the canvas. A bare-knuckled bum, biting and brawling, till I found my fists. Learnt to fight, broke bones of my own, and didn't stop till I was done. Now it's knives or guns. 9 barrels burning while the chambers whistle and whirl. Lead tearing into the town. Rattlesnakes watching, clocks stuck at 12. And the last sound of the day, gunshots. And the thud of bodies hitting dust, then silence. And the click of boots at the bar where whiskey washes away the pain. Always washes away the pain. Then you wait. Like one long western, watching the mirrors, listening, till it happens again. And again, and again. Wishing the tumbleweed would stop, the piano end, and the credits finally roll.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is fab. And you delivered that as if you were talking. It's like you said, it was part of life, and you made it real.
Thank you. I think it's a skill to read. I mean, it's something that any poet who writes and goes to open mic nights or practices reading at home, you're always trying to improve the way you read, trying to make it authentic and real. I mean, I can feel areas of that, pretty immediately where I need to improve sort of talking and sort of speaking about it. But I think it's important to make it real.
We've mentioned that before, haven't we?
Yes.
About how words look different or sound different when they're said to yourself or then said to other people. They change. Yeah,
and I think it changes whoever's reading it. And the way I'm reading that is the way I'm feeling it. I'm meaning it to sort of be delivered as well.
It's lovely to hear people, read out poetry, and if you don't get the words, it's a beautiful sound sometimes, and that's beautiful in itself. But this also had the added, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about because you're talking to me as if you're in conversation. Yeah, I like that. But you've got an array of, and you embrace a lot of different writing styles, don't you? I mean, even if you just pick up this book, 10 Swansea Writers, just in case you don't know by now, and even just by flicking through the pages, you can see, I mean, they look completely different on the page. I mean, you've got, stanzas dotted out here, you've got almost a prose there. It's
Yeah, I mean, the poems you just pointed out there are haikus. They're obviously meant to be quite short and snappy.
Right.
5 syllables and 7 syllables and 5 syllables again.
My favourite one on that page is about the potato.
Listen,
don't you read it. Let him say it for you.
Okay, go on then.
Well, I'm reading it.
You're reading it.
I'm reading it. I thought Chris was going to read it.
No, you're going to do it.
Oh, sweet potato, older than the stars and sun, chip off the old block.
Do you get it?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, a lot of my haikus, I've been told, and I think it's probably true, I just turn them into just like awful puns.
It doesn't
you know,
like-
they're sort of kind of jokey rather than.
Isn't that what it's all about?
Well, exactly. We all have a
Yeah,
punchline, don't we? And this is quite punchy.
Exactly.
And that
So-
particular one, I love it. I love the chip.
Chip off your
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There's a maybe a not so famous haiku done by James Bond, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, it's not a pure haiku, but Ian Fleming wrote it. So what the heck? But James Bond in You Only Live
Twice. Once? Twice?
says, "You only live twice.
Right.
Once when you were born, and once when you face." No, sorry. Once
right
when
now,
you,
Annie.
once when you
What's
look.
gone wrong, Annie?
Oh, ruined.
Right.
Off with the head.
But there's a very
Take
good haiku
two.
about James Bond.
Take 36. Once when you look death in the face. James Bond, chapter 11, You Only Live Twice.
Oh, that's quite profound.
It is very profound. Once when you were born and once when you look death in the face.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I prefer your
Bit
chip
morbid.
one.
Yeah, let's go back to the potato.
Yeah, let's go back to the chips. Let's go back to the chips.
So, okay, now, so, I mean, for somebody that didn't maybe pick up on the pugilist, take us through, I mean, the background and what it's all about.
Right, okay. Well, as I was explaining before, pugilist is really a way for me to kind of process some of the experiences I've had. So, but it's about essentially learning to fight, finding your fists, getting up off your feet when you've been hit down. As I said to you before, you know, I've had an array of kind of challenges over the last couple of years, from cancer and divorce and other challenges, you know. So it's basically trying to harness some of the negative feelings that kind of go through you and transpose them into something positive.
So was this written in the last year?
You know, I can't remember exactly when it was written, but I think it was the end of last year.
Right.
It was probably written.
What is a pugilist?
Pugilist is basically a sort of fighter, a boxer. And I don't know, it just kind of came to me one day, you know, the first line, you know, the first word I learnt was pain. And I just kind of started feeling that poem come to life about a fighter. And then you start going into that self-expression about the things you've been through. And then it just kept going until it was done, really.
In one of the lines, you've got where whiskey washes away the pain.
Yeah.
Always washes away the pain. I take it that's where you hit the bottle a bit.
It has been known that's something I've done before. Yeah, you know, first of all, I do like whiskey, so that is something that is.
I'm a lover of a wee drum of whiskey.
Yeah, you know, it's an easy thing to go to, but you know, it kind of ties in as well. The sort of imagery ties in with some of the sort of other descriptions I use about the Wild West. But it's true to say that, you know, I have hit the bottle on occasions. Sometimes, you know, a strong drink is just the thing you need. Do you know what I mean?
Does alcohol make you freer with words when you're writing? Or does it inspire you or hold you back?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it inspires you. I think it's certainly with me, it kind of clouds my ability to write, frankly. It's just, you know, I think people turn to a drink every now and again when they just need a pint or just need a sort of shot of whatever.
As a relaxing thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just to switch off is a coping thing sometimes. It's not always the healthiest thing to do, is it? But, you know, I suppose for me, when it comes to writing, clear head, and then just sort of try to harness the feelings you kind of experience.
You must have had a very clear head for the last few months because you've given up smoking, eating, drinking, and other things maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't say giving up the eating completely.
No.
I mean,
Well, we wouldn't want that.
no, I'm now a vegetarian. I have given up smoking, although I do use the vape a little bit from time to time. The drinking, I had to sort of knock on the head, frankly, so I could cut out the smoking and all the rest of it. But yeah, I still indulge in those things as well, but in a much more moderated.
So has
kind
your
of way.
creativity Still okay?
No, no,
Interesting.
it's completely disappeared.
At the moment?
No, I think, I mean, I personally tend to go in sort of peaks and troughs about stuff, you know, when it comes to writing. There'll be 5-6 months where I won't write anything at all. And then, you know, you have an experience or thought that you need to kind of get out. And I think that's what poets will sort of tell you. There's an innate need to sort of write something. And when it comes, you know, it's got to be written.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, historically, I mean, we all know that, well, Tony Blair, after I was going to say his presidency, after he stopped being Prime Minister, he said that he used whiskey as a crutch, didn't he, or a drink as a crutch. And Margaret Thatcher and the Queen enjoyed whiskey, didn't they? Nightly.
I thought the Queen Mother liked gin, didn't she?
Oh, sorry, the Queen. But the Queen Mother liked gin, did she?
I think she was a gin girl, yeah.
I remember watching the film with Margaret Thatcher, and she enjoyed whiskey, famous grabs.
Well, I hope it was Welsh whiskey, Penderyn.
Well, I think I've got some poems about Tony Blair, the Queen, as well. But
really?
I don't think they're
Tony Blair,
perhaps
the Queen.
the polite ones. Well, perhaps that's the one I need to write. Perhaps not polite enough for sort of TV programme, but yeah.
But Winston Churchill, well, apparently he was drunk for the whole time
Well,
he was,
yes.
Prime Minister.
Pickled in it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yes. Making decisions for us as a country. But there we are. Anyway, so if you want to read more of Gwion Iqbal Manic's work, it's in 10 Swansea Writers. Thank you, Iqbal. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching again from me and Annie and Iqbal. Bye for now.